Hello, my name is Jake Kraus. This is my presentation for MBAD6990, our final term project. It is the strategic analysis of the Heartland Restaurant Group where I currently work. Heartland Restaurant Group is the Dunkin' Donuts franchisee for southwestern Pennsylvania, with its headquarters in Forest Hills. We currently operate 52 Dunkin' stores and one Baskin Robbins, and our northern border is roughly Butler County, as far south as Waynesburg, and from Weirton, West Virginia, all the way across to Indiana and points in between. It's a fairly broad area, but we've certainly filled it out rather quickly. Being only 11 years old, we've gone from 0 stores to 53, and we plan to open 10 more Dunkin' locations, one more Baskin Robbins location in the next 365 days. Across that company, there are about 1,200 store level staff and only about 30 franchise level staff operating the business. As a franchisee, HRG handles all of the local operations with the support and guidance of the brand. So it's all Dunkin' all the way through. However, locally, everything is operated through HRG under an agreement with Dunkin' Brands. To start, we'll go through the industry overall, analyze it, talk about some of the drivers, and then we'll get a little bit more into HRG, also the short version for Heartland Restaurant Group. Overall, Dunkin' is a quick service restaurant. So in other words, it's a place where you go in with it's a limited low price menu. You try and get as many people through as possible in as short as time as possible. Um, Other restaurants like it, McDonald's, Starbucks, Taco Bell, Tim Hortons, to name a few. In the region, the biggest competitors for HRG's Dunkin's are McDonald's and Starbucks, directly. Indirectly, Sheetz, GetGo, Speedway, and the other full-service convenience stores are rapidly becoming a competitor as people try for the one-stop shop. The ownership of these companies varies dramatically, ranging from corporate-owned stores like Sheetz or Starbucks to small franchises owning McDonald's, and typically those franchises are more like 10 stores, and the franchise structure is somewhat different. But each one has its impact on the operations of the store. Looking at the overall environment, a pastoral analysis seemed logical. Politically, tax laws are a challenge. I mean, that's a big piece for each company operating. And as anyone who lives here in Allegheny County knows, tax laws aren't so easy when you have municipalities and the city of Pittsburgh, and then the county, and then the state and Fed. It gets very complicated. The other challenges are changes in employment laws, health codes, and as a company that has a few branches in West Virginia, we add another state to the mix that keeps our guys busy in accounting. Economically, the biggest impacts on the company are related to wages and overall economic climate. Obviously, the better the economy is, the more money people have to spend, the more likely they are to spend it in our store. But the flip side of a good economy is people have jobs and don't necessarily want to work at a lower pay job like Dunkin' Donuts. Social trends, changing consumer tastes are the biggest things that affect us. People are looking for healthier food, knowing where that food came from, clean food, to use a word that I hear a lot. So that's valuable for us as we look to try new things. Starting in a couple weeks, we'll have Beyond Meat sausage, so you can get a vegan sausage sandwich. Should be interesting. Social and political issues are certainly an issue. We've all heard about Starbucks sensitivity training that benefited Dunkin' because it's a pretty apolitical company, so it's been able to stay out of the limelight for those types of things. But it does affect customer opinion and where they choose to go. Technology, obviously, is a perpetual challenge. Locally, really, we haven't seen a huge amount of impact short of the app-based loyalty and ordering programs, which are huge. Our loyal customers love them and use them all the time. Environmentally, store location matters. Our stores are mostly located along major thoroughfares, but we do change our product variety and our hours to match the local competitors. Sometimes we also have to worry about the volume and timing of the business, all matters with that location. On the legal side, those zoning laws tie right back into the environment, telling us what we can and can't do in a given location. We also have to worry about liability, labeling, and employment law. I employ a lot of minors. I have to keep track of their hours and making sure they have all their paperwork done. It's very important for us because otherwise we face a lot of fines to do so. Summarizing that, a couple things that come out of this, and especially if you read the whole paper, you'll see more of it. Increasing cost of business. Wages are trying to rise, and benefits and regulatory compliance become a challenge. Social changes are starting to affect what people want to come by, and it changes our sales and product mix. Technology. It might be more efficient to use technology, but it lessens the interaction, and often the most loyal guests are the ones that are looking for a personal connection. And then the increased competition, whether it be direct competition from McDonald's or Wendy's, or take your pick of fast food franchises, or Sheets or GetGo, or even you get into the fast casuals like Panera Bread. It seems to be proliferating ever faster and always a challenge to keep on top of that. And analyzing the industry as a whole, we'll use Porter's five forces, kind of go clockwise from the top here. Threat of entry into the market. It's moderate. It's a very high cost to enter the market in terms of the capital up front. If you look at some different websites, you can find out about franchise costs. Dunkin' is not cheap, but being in a franchise is a lot more advantageous than starting your own. You have an instant brand recognition and a lot of brand support to do it, but they're all, on the flip side, you are tied into what they expect you to do. Buyers have super high power. We're not talking a super investment on their part, so it's very easy for them to say, get real mad and say, nope, I'm going down the street to McDonald's, or no, I'm not in that area, so I'll just stop at this other store right now on our way through. You have a couple bad days, it takes too long for them to get their coffee on their way to work, they're going to find another option. So it's always important to realize that buyers really, at the end of the day, do have most of the power. Substitute threat. We've talked about a couple different options already, whether they be fast casual or convenience stores. Or even better, you could stay at home and do that. You can make your own coffee at home, you can make your own breakfast at home. Maybe not as quick, but the trade-off cost there is a little more time for a little less money. It's all in what you pick your time to do. Supplier power is moderate. In our franchise, we have a sole source supplier, so they have a whole lot of control. Truck shows up late, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Pricing is up to them in negotiation with the national brand. Other stores might have different models depending on how their company operates their supply system. And rivalry. We all know there's a rivalry between Dunkin' and Starbucks. You see it all over the place, and there's always different rivalries going on. That's a really high challenge because you have to recognize some of the stereotypes that go with that. And then you'll see companies change their offerings. McDonald's changing offering breakfast was a big deal because they didn't used to, and Dunkin' was the only place you could get breakfast all day. Now we're not. So far, it doesn't seem to hurt us too much, but those sales probably were cannibalized from other different stores than just McDonald's growing its clientele. It grew it at the cost of other customers. Overall, you look at it, it's a very challenging industry to get into and maintain success, with three of the things being high threat levels. The franchise model does help make that easier in the brand support that exists and having an instant brand recognition, so it's not as difficult as other things are. But you do have to choose the right one. Everyone knows starting a Chick-fil-A franchise seems to be the way to go, but if you look into it, it's a whole lot of work. Dunkin's a lot more expensive, but it's a little bit easier to wedge your way into. Some of the success factors looking at it looking at these five forces are quality labor management. You have to retain and grow your customers and have good, strong organizational support. So moving from the industry overall, how's HRG stack up to the competition? Please note this picture is our brand new store in Blairsville. Locally, as I mentioned, our biggest competitors are Starbucks, McDonald's, Sheetz, and GetGo, with varying different types of ownership and what they offer, but we all compete for the same customers. HRG had a big advantage when it started in that Krispy Kreme and Bruegger's both exited the market, this market, right about the same time as it started, leaving an opening that we've filled rather quickly. And the competition focuses on the variety, speed of service, and prices. Financially, how do we compare is a little bit more difficult. Unfortunately, HRG is a private company, and as I've learned recently, doesn't share its annual results outside of its investors and senior leadership. But what I do know, having worked through a lot of the numbers with our management team, is our EBITDA, so our earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, averages about 20% per store. It's one of the highest in Dunkin' brands. And you do some math with the number of stores, where we're at, and what I was just looking through today. we've probably cleared at least $8 million in net income, EBITDA, in the first 9 months of 2019, and my guess is that's probably pretty low. I'm assuming that's higher because I certainly don't know all the stores, and our sales vary depending on what store you're at. Doing a SWOT analysis of the company in comparison to the other companies in the area. Strength, it's a large franchise. We're the only Dunkin' franchise. The stores are close enough to support each other, but not compete with each other per se. We have a unique management incentive program, and we're just saw the QSR report, QSR magazine saying we're the fastest company in the country for speed of service. And I look at that time and go, I know our regional times are probably 30 seconds faster than that. So you can get in and out of Dunkin' drive through to out the street in probably 3 minutes or less, depending on your store. Weaknesses that we have a high turnover in staff and management, common to other QSRs. Understaffed, it's perpetually a staffing challenge, so you tend to run a tight ship, and that gets a little exhausting. There's not a ton of support staff. We run very lean, so when issues come up, you kind of have to dig into your own toolbox to figure out the solution. And internally, we don't communicate our goals and strategy super well. That's something we'll talk about a little later. External opportunities, we do have some outlying areas where we have not reached yet with stores, which is where a lot of those 11 upcoming stores are going. And there's always additional marketing opportunities and partnerships. External threats, our competitors are growing quickly, changing preferences for food, competitors' wage increasing and competing for the same pool of staff. The VRIO analysis you can kind of look through as we go through, but we'll skip to the important part, which is the end. The biggest competitive advantages it has are being a franchise of an international brand, local and veteran leadership team, store density, and our local store cooperation, which is huge because we can share resources even when we're tight to support each other when big issues come up, like the recent water outage. Now, strategic issues and recommendations. I tried to save some time for that here at the end. Reviewing all of what's in here, and if you want to go through and read the paper that you'll be able to get to as well. The three categories are people, internal communications, and growth. We need more staff at the store levels to be more efficient, and beyond that, to be able to support them. How do we do that? We'll talk a little bit more. Internal communication. The company still thinks it's a lot smaller than it is, and struggles to communicate clearly across all levels. A lot of the personal relationships have changed. People have changed locations. It's very difficult to form relationships when you're in your own store for long hours each week. And that lack of communication is inhibiting our effectiveness. And growth, we're rapidly reaching density. At some point, we're going to run out of places to put new stores. And if we want to continue growing, we either have to push the store growth or we have to find a different way to grow. What do I suggest? The first slide here is people. Reinvigorate and restructure our peer-to-peer recruiting methods. It's the best way to get staff, but we need to recognize them quicker and find more ways to do so. Extend that to guests. Get guests to help us suggest new people. They know a lot more people than we do within. It's a great way to add on. We have to retain people by changing our compensation system. We have to create a more structured crew training program to ensure everyone knows what they're doing and feels confident in doing so, and increase our support staff structure so that we have the staff support to execute our programs. Internal communications. We don't meet very often, and I used to never like to have meetings, but I think occasionally having meetings that have bullet points from the senior management meeting among the district managers' teams would be great because it gives us the opportunity to get to know each other and get the word as soon as possible directly and be able to interact instead of just a random email memo. Also looking into something like Slack or Teams as a communication tool that we could include our crews in. We use a thing called GroupMe now that's just generally rah-rah stuff, but we need to be able to communicate more information more broadly. And let's be honest, most people have their phone with them. What better way than to leverage that? And also to have some annual events. The last recommendation would be to diversify the franchise and include a new franchisee. Could be like Honeygro out of Philadelphia, or any of the other numbers of new QSRs, or increase same-store marketing sales growth through new marketing. But running out of time now, so thank you very much for your time, and please read the paper for more info. Thank you.